To order. Uh, Glad to see everybody's here today in this beautiful day that we have outside, that it's nice to be inside. Um, our first thing on the agenda is the zoning case, number ZBA 2023 004, petition of Doug Huff. Can I have a motion to put that on the floor? Linda Eden for a second. Okay, Andrew, you have a slide for us, or
Yes, sir.
presentation? Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Rosenbaum. I'm joined here today by Director Urban and our inspections coordinator, Adam Willard. And following last month's vote by the Land Use Committee, and in the discussion, there was a request for planning and zoning to look for some additional information about inspections that could be part of a short-term rental requirement. So first I want to go over what restrictions were approved. There were 8 restrictions that were recommended for approval. 6 of the 8 originally came from the Planning and Zoning staff report and recommendation. 2 additional restrictions were added by the Zoning Board of Appeals and then also supported by the Land Use Committee. So I'll just go over them quickly. I have a note here that says yellow text indicates restriction is already enforced through the UDO. So what we've done in a number of different zoning cases is called out specific Unified Development Ordinance requirements to ensure that they're seen, that that parties are aware of what those might be. But keep in mind, those are already requirements, whether they're included in the restrictions or not. So the first one is the special use is null and void in the event that the subject parcel is no longer owned by the subject owner. The second one in this case is no more than 6 overnight guests may be present at the subject parcel at one time. The third one is the operator shall keep a log identifying the name, address, and telephone number of all guests. This log must be provided to the zoning administrator upon request. The fourth is the operator shall notify all adjacent property owners that overnight accommodations will be offered at the subject property by sending a letter through certified mail. This letter shall include the contact information of the operator. The operator must provide the zoning administrator with a copy of the letter sent and a verification receipt showing that each letter was delivered or that a delivery attempt was made. Number 5, overnight accommodations may not be offered at the subject property until a certificate of occupancy has been issued by the Department of Planning and Zoning per section 20-7.8 overnight accommodations of the Peoria County Unified Development Ordinance. Number 6, overnight guests cannot hunt or use firearms. The property owner and his personal guests are not subject to this requirement. Number 7, overnight guests cannot use ATVs, recreational vehicles, and similar such vehicles. The property owner and his personal guests are not subject to this requirement. And number 8, the special use permit may be terminated by the zoning administrator upon violation of the above restrictions per section 20-3.5.9 of the Peoria County Unified Development Ordinance. So again, that was the outcome of last month's Land Use Committee. For discussion purposes, we looked at some additional restriction language at your request to kind of help guide that or facilitate that discussion. So subject property must pass inspection by the Department of Planning and Zoning prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued, and again every 2 years. Any applicable cost of the same shall be paid to the Department of Planning and Zoning prior to inspection. Inspection shall encompass safety concerns of the following items: interior and exterior stairway railings, deck and balcony components, electrical panel, basement egress windows, bedroom egress windows, GFI outlets in bathrooms and kitchen, smoke CO detectors working properly and located in all required areas, switches, outlets, and lighting fixtures working properly and with proper covers. Again, this is just for discussion purposes. We're not suggesting this is our recommendation or an all-inclusive list. It's to facilitate the discussion here today. It was also brought up, what is the city of Peoria doing? They have short-term rentals in their community. Are they conducting inspections? We have found that they are conducting inspections. It is a one-time inspection done prior to occupancy. It is the building inspector, the fire inspector, and a planner. The city of Peoria is not charging a fee for this service. After the initial inspection, there is no other reinspection required. Some of the considerations that were brought up were in regards to cost. How will we cover this, or are there alternatives? We reached out to 5 different Peoria area home inspectors to talk about whether or not they'd be able to offer a life safety inspection. That's a term we've heard at the last month's meeting. That's not necessarily what it is exactly being called, but most of the home inspection companies did not offer a specific life safety inspection. They said, we offer a home inspection. Take it or leave it. A regular home inspection would be required to satisfy the needs of a life safety inspection, and the average cost based on the responses from those 5 home inspector companies was $350. We did an analysis as to what it would cost for an in-house or our building inspections team. We believe that would be, including travel and time, roughly $80 for staff time and travel. That's using the 2023 IRS mileage reimbursement. We looked at the kind of midpoint in Peoria County and determined that that would be about $40. So we believe it would be about $120 cost for an in-home inspection. There is no inspection of this rate in our fee schedule. So in order to implement something such as that, it would have to come back as an amendment in the future. So at that rate, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Questions for Andrew or Kathy? Linda?
I just wanted to thank you and to thank the rest of the department for researching and addressing and answering all of the topics that we brought up. It's very helpful. Thanks.
Eden?
I agree. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Can you tell me what I know we've done lots of research on what other areas similar to us do. Does anyone else require an inspection like this?
As I mentioned, the City of Peoria is conducting an inspection. We are not aware of any other communities, whether they're cities or counties, that are doing these types of inspections.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? Now, my question, Jenny, is this a motion? What they did, they brought that, I was under understanding the motion was to be able to talk about this. We don't have a motion for this yet, right? Or was that a motion to bring it up?
You're correct that there's no motion on the floor right now to add an additional restriction. Procedurally, if that is what the group wants to do, there's 2 routes that you could take. You already voted as a committee at the last meeting to approve, to go with the ZBA's recommendation, and you approved it with the restrictions that they had recommended. So in order to amend, so that is off the table now. You voted on that, right? That is complete. So if you want to amend that decision, what you do is something called a motion to rescind and amend. So you can do that here. You can basically bring it back to life. It requires a supermajority and things like that. So make sure that that's really what y'all want to do. So you can bring it back to life here at the committee, or you can just make this a discussion topic, and someone could make a motion to amend at the board level at the 6 o'clock meeting, because that's the first time that the board is taking up the issue. So you don't have to, go backwards and revisit something that was already complete. So if I'm not explaining that well, please ask questions. But those are kind of the 2 routes you can do. You can bring it back to life here at the committee level, or you can wait, if you even want to add this restriction, you can do that at the county board meeting with an motion to amend to add that restriction.
Jimmy?
I don't know what the rest of the group is thinking, but it might be, since this group had the discussion, easier and cleaner to move to rescind and amend here. Or was Andrew going to give this presentation to the whole board to explain so that they understand the restriction? Because it would probably be more beneficial for this group to talk about, since we know what was going on, actually talk about amending it than have it at the full board level without any prior knowledge to go there. So if it's not posed to anybody, I would move to, I don't know, since I didn't vote last time, am I even allowed to move and rescind?
You are. Yes, I'm sure you don't want me to get into Robert's rules on the distinctions of that, but yes, and to answer your question, on a rescind and amend, anyone can
I
do it.
move to rescind and amend
Okay, do we have-
What? Could just,
to add a restriction.
Okay, second, Linda? Okay,
Nope,
Okay.
that's not what,
okay, Linda? Is there a second? Sharon, okay. Okay, now we're for discussion. Linda?
I guess what I wanted to say is that my concerns about these restrictions and adding more is before we got the answers to what the city does, etc. I personally am satisfied with an occupancy certificate which requires an inspection, and then to have anything beyond that at this point be complaint driven. So for me personally, I don't need to amend the 8 restrictions that we've already put on.
I agree. I don't want to have more onerous restrictions than our fellow counties. And so I'd be okay with a occupancy permit inspection, but not beyond that. So I don't need to add restrictions to this.
Okay, Matt?
So there's some things here that I guess I've had discussions with. I mean, I know we can't talk. Terry can't still talk, correct?
No.
So there's some things here that I think that I could support. If it's supported like it is, I don't want to support it, but I think it could. So I guess my question is, are we in a hurry for this particular case to have this just in our regular for future, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise, I mean, I guess if it's as it is, I don't support it.
Okay,
But I think that I could, I guess, is what I'm saying.
okay. Jimmy?
so it might be easier to have Kathy or Andrew explain. So we would actually, to have a one-time inspection, we have to make that a restriction.
Okay, I misunderstood then. I thought.
So if you want a one-time inspection for this, just to make sure the house is in compliance and safe, we have to move to add it as a restriction. We cannot require them to have a inspection as just part of the deal. But I would defer to Kathy or Andrew, the technical expert. So that's where I was confused.
Oh, okay, no, I think I must have been, because I thought that was one of the restrictions that they had to have an occupancy permit.
They do need an occupancy permit as it stands. However, it's not based on a building inspection at this point. It's based on the other requirements in the Unified Development Ordinance. If you wanted these types of inspections that were listed in in this slide, we would need some sort of restriction on this case. Whether or not you have that every 2 years recurring, you might want to take that out of there based on what you're saying. But we would need the restriction to allow those inspections.
So to sum it up, right now, they don't have any inspection done. They just have the occupancy certificate.
No inspections done for building type,
Okay.
right?
So this would, so we have different ways we can do this. We can have them add the inspection for this, this case, and then if we want it for everybody else from now on, we would have to make a resolution at another meeting, correct? To add it to all the rest of them.
So if you wanted it on future cases, we could continue to add it as a restriction, or we could amend the ordinance to require it in our ordinance.
Okay, so we can do that. We can do it where we have it done every 2 years or every 3 years, or complaint driven. This is a part that if you want to discuss more on how you want to do it, would be the best way of doing it. Jimmy?
and I think since we haven't voted on the move and rescind, but what I would be looking to amend from talking to some people is that they would feel more comfortable with a one-time inspection, and after that it's complaint driven. So, and if my understanding is correct, this is not like an owner of a 1924 home. This is not coming in saying your stair pitch is too high, but that you're basically, if you're marketing a house with a bedroom in the basement, that there is an actual egress window, that the electrical panel is not off where a young child could touch the electrical panel. A basic, quick building safety inspection. Nothing too in-depth. Well, in-depth, but not saying that you need to, those stairs are too steep and we need to rebuild that or something like that. So I think it's just saying we're granting this one-time inspection, no cost, we're consistent with the city, and because a lot of times we hear from things that we are not consistent with the city or there's different rules, that this would put everybody in Peoria that has this on a level playing field. So I think that's what the motion to rescind and amend would be, just so everybody is clear.
Any questions? Matt?
So why the complaint-driven part? That's the only part I don't like either.
So the whole entire, it's already in there about complaint driven, that any time that staff can go review the property. So basically it would be, hey, I'm envisioning this as staff's not going to probably respond, and I don't mean to outspeak for staff, for some people that are just upset with it and constantly calling, but if there was, hey, a child fell off a deck because the railing wasn't there and there was an incident at the house, you need to go look at the house, that would be a valid complaint for them to go out and look at if there had been an incident report from something. Not to speak out of term here, but I would think that would be up to the discretion of the planning and zoning department and not to be used as a harassment tool on the owner. Because there's plenty of calls that they receive on a daily basis that staff has been doing this long enough to know when it's a harassment call versus a actual call. More than likely, we will never receive a complaint about that, but there is things that we can rescind the property if they've left it go to disrepair. There could be a call right now saying that the roof has a hole in it, and we could pull this Airbnb, and they would still go out and respond to that. So it's really no different than what we're already requiring of it, other than the fact we're just going to require a one-time inspection, which is consistent with the city and consistent with most other practices probably. This isn't an overreach. This is a fairly decent compromise, I believe, Mr. Windish.
Do we need to put the complaint driven in there, or is that just a known that if
we already operate on a complaint-driven basis. That is our normal method of operation.
so we really wouldn't need to even put that in the wording because that's how we already operate. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Matt, would that appease?
I'm 100% for it, or I'm fine with all of it except for the complaint driven and then the reoccurring thing. Those are the only two things I don't feel comfortable with. If you take those out, I'm for it. But and I think we already work that way. I just don't want to see, like say somebody don't like this one, then we become the police, and I don't even want to have that option there. That's my only two hang-ups. So if the wording has that, just like it is without those, I'm supportive of it.
So let me get this correctly. So for a restriction, we would add that, and then it would have to say, sorry, I got good eyesight, but I can't read the top part. A one-time inspection for those reasonings. That's what we would be adding as a restriction. So basically take out, keep this, so when it says certificate of occupancy, you will have basically an inspection, and then eliminate again every 2 years from that wording as a restriction. And that would meet, I think, everybody's goal in this.
I think the one-time inspection is fine. I mean, that's fine. I'm good with that.
Do we have any other discussion for this? So basically, Kathy, do you understand what we want?
I do. From what I understand.
We just, we're just trying to get it so everybody understands what we're doing. The legal department Jenny understands what we're doing, so we get it right the first time, not have to do it again. So basically, we're doing an inspection before we give them the occupancy certificate. And after that, the only time you go out there for an inspection is if somebody calls in and complains. We're not putting that part in on the resolution. We'll go like what you normally do with your office when something's complaint driven.
Can I, Mr. Chairman, may I?
Go ahead.
Clarify? If the current motion on the floor was the originally proposed, right there on the PowerPoint, the originally proposed language, that's what's currently on the floor. If there's an amendment to change the wording to what Andrew just had up there in Word, can you put that one up? Then that restriction just calls for an inspection before the certificate of occupancy. And I just wanted staff to clarify, that would allow you to investigate a complaint. If it's a one-time inspection, there's no ongoing requirement by the department to go out and re-inspect. So I just want to clarify that point.
Right. If we had a complaint for an unsafe structure, we would go out and investigate that.
Yeah, everybody clear as mud. So, Jimmy's amendment or motion is to do what we're doing up here. Do we have? Okay. Okay, Jenny, what do we have?
On the floor right now is the motion to rescind and amend
Okay.
the black PowerPoint motion, okay, is what you're proposing. Now you need to amend that first motion, so now we're on a secondary amendment, to go to the Word version, the white version. So you're going to, if that motion is made to amend, you're going to vote on that. And then if that passes, you're going to vote on the original motion to rescind and amend as amended. It's very fun.
So right now we're voting for this one.
We have to make a motion to amend.
Do we have to make a motion to amend again right now?
Make a motion to amend it to this version.
Okay.
No,
Before.
before.
I need another motion and a motion.
Your-
Yeah. We're amending that motion.
Your motion to amend is the black. That's what your motion was. What was in black was the motion to amend to that. It's not a motion to act to rescind. It is a motion to amend your last vote to the black. Yeah.
So then now we don't need to vote on that. Now I need to make a motion for.
Someone needs to vote to amend your motion.
Okay, Jimmy, You're making
Or-
are you making a motion or for what's up on the board right
Or
now?
Linda can, that's fine.
So move.
Second,
Wait,
second.
okay. I need a second now. Okay, Eden. Okay. Right now, we're voting on what's up on the board,
The
a
amendment.
one-time inspection before we give the certificate of occupancy, and no other inspections after that unless somebody calls into the office and has a complaint. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same side? I'm sorry, Terry. Okay, and Terry's abstaining from this one, okay? Okay,
I'm abstaining for the record.
okay, okay, now,
Sorry, did you vote?
yes,
sorry.
that one passed unanimously
Okay, now you're
with Terry abstaining.
And now you're voting to rescind and amend as amended.
Okay, any questions before we vote? Okay,
I'm sorry, and that must be the 2/3 supermajority vote to pass.
okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same side? Okay, passed unanimously.
For the record, I will abstain.
With Terry, okay, I thought that was with Terry abstaining. Okay. Is there anybody here? Let me see. Let me get onto it. We got public comment. Any public comment? Okay, anything for miscellaneous? Okay, meeting adjourned. We got it done in half hour like I said we would. Thank you, everyone.